Oh baby, it looks like the competition has gone up a notch between DELOS and Sailing into Freedom, and it's a fight to the death. It looks like the competition has gone up a notch between DELOS and Sailing into Freedom, and it's a fight to the death. Well, probably not. I'm pretty sure DELOS is completely unaware of this competition, but that's okay. Some would argue that it's good to have a fight to the death with a party that's unaware that it's a fight to the death. That's very un-Australian. I wouldn't have it. So we'll give Brian another week, to do match 2. So this week I'm going to discuss catamarans, and we might compare a little bit, but it's more of a discussion. It's not whose is better and whose is worse. It's a discussion about cats in general. So let's jump to the computer. Here are 3 formulas that can give you some indication on how good your sailboat is. Now don't freak out, you won't have to do any calculations. Let's check them out. The first is the sail area to displacement ratio, the second is the displacement to waterline length ratio, and the third is KSP, which is Kelsel's Sailing Performance Number. Today we will go through the second formula. Now I'm using these because they're found on a very useful website called sailboatdata.com. It is a free site, you don't have to log in, and you can look up the details of more than 9,000 boats that are stored in its database. It's easy to use. Here I have typed in Leopard 50, click on it down here, and voila, I have the details of the Leopard 50. You can even download a PDF with which you can now compare with other boats. The displacement to waterline length ratio is about how heavy your boat is over the waterline length, and it gives you an indication on how hard it is to push that boat through water. Let's take a look at this ratio on a variety of boats in the 43 to 53 foot range. And let's add DELOS 2.0, and there's the Odisea 48, which is my boat. The lower you go on the graph, the more performance you are likely to get. Personally, I would not go above DELOS 2.0, which is about 105. This is around the limit of the Performance Catamarans, so don't go to the dark side, people. Now, if we look at some of the boats with a DL ratio of under 100, namely the DASCAT, the Ultramar, HH and the ORC, what do you notice about these boats? They're looking pretty sleek, aren't they? Of course, we don't have any pictures of a completed Odisea 48 just yet because it is not quite finished. But it is getting close and it looks sleek and beautiful. If you want more information, send me an email. So if we compare these sleek boats to these heavier boats with D to L ratios of above 150, what do you notice? I showed these pictures to James from Sailing Zingaro. He's a guy that knows his boats and he knows catamarans. He's sailed many miles. And we did a podcast on it about 2 years ago. You should check it out. But this is what he said. You want to just take a look at these pictures, James?
Sure thing.
And tell me some things that spring to mind, okay?
Huge. How many levels is that? 3 levels. 3-story building. Wow, look at that swim platform. Oh my God. What was that? Wait, go back. Oh my God. I want to know what. Yeah, that one. That one?
That one?
Yeah, that's a Fontaine Peugeot.
Oh, hold on. Yeah.
No, that was it. It was the Fontaine Peugeot 51. Whoa, that's such a crazy boat.
But wait, there's more. So when you looked at that, what was the thing that first came to mind?
They have to be too heavy. They just have to be too heavy.
I look at that and I go, weight. That's unbelievable. And what about catamarans and weight? Are they good? It's good to have weight, or is it bad to have weight?
Well, no, it's bad.
It's very bad. Catamarans need to be light.
Yeah, we were actually. I threw my silverware out one day, and I was saying that with Kim, my ex-girlfriend, and she got so pissed. Don't do that if you have a cat. Okay, talk to your girl first. Make sure it's cool with the missus, and then you can start throwing out the silverware and cutting your toothbrushes in half. But yeah. Actually, we were on such a mission to get it lighter, because you can tell.
Yeah, well, weight is such a bad thing for catamarans, and it seems that the designers, it's not even a consideration at all. This is a 45-foot lagoon, and this at the bottom right is a Performance Cruising Catamaran. With the yellow profile, I have attempted to estimate the cross-section of the Performance Cruiser over the lagoon. Look at the massive difference in hull beneath the water. And look at the difference in draft. And we will have one final look at the differences of the front views. If you cannot see the massive difference, then I don't know what's wrong with you. There is little wonder why they very rarely show you the front view of these heavy catamarans. Check this out for yourself. Front views are very difficult to find. So I'm going to end with a word of caution. I know, caution, sailing into freedom. Who would have thought? Actually, that's not true. I've got lots of episodes on catamarans, the pros and cons, the ratios, so you should look them up. Some will be in the description. But if I were you and you were thinking of buying a heavy, luxurious catamaran, well, number one, I wouldn't, but I'm just advising you to think twice, think 3 times, think 4 times, ask a lot of people. Because as your catamaran weight goes up, your options during inclement weather go down. In fact, there are some situations the only thing you can do is run with the storm. Here's you, here's the storm. What happens? You're sailing with the storm. You're in the storm for a longer period of time. Whereas if you're in a more sportier catamaran, you can probably avoid the worst of it. Especially if you've got some forecasts, you can cover a long distance. For example, we were 40 miles away from this reef, which was our destination. We knew there was a front coming through in the late afternoon, and we covered that 40 mile in just over 4 hours. And was it hard sailing? No, it was a beam reach. Was there slamming? I was on a catamaran? No. It was effortless, and we got there well before the storm. Now, it was no real big deal. It's a 35 knot storm. But, you know, we were there, we were anchored. I think we even had an hour before it hit. If we were a slow catamaran, we would have been hit right in the middle, and it would have been unpleasant. So, you've got options. You can get away from things, or you can get to your destination quicker. So, think very carefully about buying a heavy catamaran, because you are going to get caught out at least once, no matter how good the forecasts are, and then you're going to start wishing you had more options. G'day good people, the GoFundMe campaign is in its 18th week and we are 60% of our way to our goal. Now, I got to apologise for last week because I think a lot of people got scared and they started donating money, so I don't want people to be shocked or scared. There's no shame coming second to DELOS. They are a huge, it's not just a channel, but there's lots of people involved with that channel. With me, it's just me, and literally our budget for the build is probably going to be a 1/6 or a 1/7 of what theirs is going to be. Our earning with, you know, PayPal, Patreon and all of that is probably 1/50th. And of course, our audience is much smaller. So we're basically destined to have a hard time. And there's nothing wrong with having a hard time. That's sailing into freedom. So who is going to go up onto the column of heroes? Or indeed, the champion column of the column of heroes? We have Scott Tromp, who has now donated 5 times on the GoFundMe campaign and now goes onto the column of heroes. We have Deb Whitley, who has been a long-time supporter of the channel already. Deb is also up on the Kickstarter stern wall and now goes onto the champion columns of the column of heroes. We also have Captain Asparagus, a New Zealander, for the 8th time on the GoFundMe campaign alone. Hallelujah! We also have Mark Sutherland again, who only just put up on the column of heroes. And yet here he is mentioned again. We also have David Peck now twice here on the GoFundMe campaign, and Larry Horsley, a Kickstarter supporter and now a GoFundMe supporter. Both David and Larry both go onto the champions column of the column of heroes. And finally, JM Sims, who has supported the channel in the Kickstarter campaign and now the GoFundMe campaign, and now goes onto the champion columns of the column of heroes. If you want me to put your full name up, there is no problem there, Mr. Sims. Just send me an email. Now, who is going to be drawn onto the boat this week? We have Stephen Collins again, Mitch and Becky Graham again, Nigel Phillips-Martin again, Marianne Strending again, John Malenfont again, Melissa Bailey, Keith Marino, Perry Smith, Jeffrey Farr, Andrew Maloney again, Christy Aiken, Mitchell Davis again, John Kimbler and Rush Doherty, and Ian Firth Clark for the 3rd time. Hallelujah! Thank you all for supporting the Elcano World Challenge. You've heard of mushroom sprouting? Well, check out the Daggerboard garden. Some people have asked me, why aren't I doing any welding, you lazy bugger? You know, like DELOS. DELOS is doing all this welding. Well, I can't. This is a military shipyard and there are strict rules. I'm already very surprised that I'm allowed so much access as it is. So yes, I'm a glorified tripod forevermore for this build. Now it's probably a godsend really, because what a few of you might not realise is that actually filming and doing something is actually extremely inefficient about doing that thing. For example, let's say I put aside 1 hour for welding and filming of that welding. In actual fact, I would probably only get about 10 to 12 minutes of welding done in that time. Setting up the camera, turning it off, doing time lapse, moving it around. If you notice, most frames only last between 2 and 5 seconds. So you need to continually change the camera, otherwise you guys get bored. Now you'll say, oh, but that's still 10 to 12 minutes of video. Well, you only have to do that twice and you've got 1 video for the week. No, it doesn't work like that. So out of that 10 or 12 minutes of video I get, that will get cut down to about 30 seconds. That is how inefficient this business is. So not only do I reduce my welding time from an hour down to say 10 or 12 minutes, my video for that hour is only 30 seconds. It's atrocious. And there's also only me, so it makes me even more inefficient. Do you remember all those spearfishing videos that about 17 of you really liked? Well, for 1 minute and 15 seconds of video, that would be me at least 2 hours in the water. Not travelling time to the dive site or back. Plus, then when I get all of that video, I have to go back to the boat, get on the computer, and then there's another 2 hours there. So for 1 minute and say 15 seconds is about 4 hours of time. And sometimes it's more. I know people, it's very inefficient. But you ask all the other YouTubers and they will come up with the same. So the more I think about it, if I was in a mangrove without too many facilities and I was building it myself, filming it myself and doing all the editing myself, well, I reckon this would have been at least 7 years of work. So I'm very thankful to Odisea Catamarans for relieving me of this huge task. Yes, it would be nice to do some welding, but I think it's a small sacrifice if we look at the bigger Elcano World Challenge picture. And with this particular project, there is so much technology for me to get my head around. I did mention earlier in the episode that it was just me. When I'm talking about just me, it was just me at the floor on the factory. But I am very lucky to have Bart giving an unbelievable amount of time, plus all of my WhatsApp chat group people that are giving their time selflessly and organising all of this other stuff that's completely over my head. So it's not quite accurate to say I'm by myself. I've got some wonderful people in this team. But what I meant earlier was in particular in regards to video editing and filming. It would be also nice to have someone to cuddle with and, you know, deal with the day-to-day disappointments and highlights. I am missing that. Unfortunately, I probably am the only white guy in Southeast Asia that can't get a girl. That's sailing into freedom.